Hello everyone, today I'll be reviewing The Killers. So The Killers came out in 1946 and it's a classic film noir starring Burt Lancaster and Ava Gardner. So right at the start of this film, it's set in a small town called Brentwood in New Jersey, and these two hitmen, they come into this diner looking for a man known as the Swede. But the Swede is not there, so one of the other men in the diner, he sneaks out and he goes to warn the Swede that these two men are looking for him. So we are then introduced to this Swede character who is played by Burt Lancaster, but he apparently doesn't care that these two men are looking for him, and he says that he did something wrong a long time ago, which is probably causing these two men to look for him. So then what happens is that somehow these two hitmen, they come into the apartment and they shoot the Swede dead. So this really sets up the film really nicely, because we as the audience, we don't really know what exactly is going on. We don't know why these two men have come to kill the Swede. We don't know what it was that the Swede did a while ago which has caused this to happen. So there's a big mystery element to this, and it really sets the film nicely for what is to come afterwards. So we're then introduced to this insurance man called Reardon, and he is played by Edmond O'Brien, and he then becomes the main character in the story as he interviews lots of different people trying to fit the pieces of the puzzle together and find out exactly what happened to the Swede and why things have led up to him being shot by these two hitmen. We then get a series of flashback sequences happen throughout this film, a bit like Citizen Kane, where we as the audience, we have to fit these pieces of the puzzle together and find out exactly what is happening. So this book is actually based on the short story by Ernest Hemingway, and the story by Ernest Hemingway is actually really short, only about 3,000 words, and the story itself only actually covers the opening sequence of this film, so the sequence up to where the Swede gets shot, and that's where the story ends. So this film essentially took that short story and then expanded it with all the bit afterwards leading up to the Swede being shot. This was actually a film which Ernest Hemingway himself really liked, when he didn't actually like a lot of the other film adaptations of his books. And I myself, this was the first time that I'd ever seen this film, and that's why I wanted to do a review of it. It's a film that really launched both Burt Lancaster and Ava Gardner's careers, because this was Burt Lancaster's film debut and helped him become a big Hollywood star. And in terms of performances in this film, I think they're pretty good. I don't think they're amazing, if I'm honest. I think the characters are interesting. I think Burt Lancaster really, he's the star of the film really, but he doesn't get quite as much screen time as you might think, because we get these series of flashback sequences and he isn't in all of them. And in fact, there's really three main characters in this film. We have Burt Lancaster, who plays a Swede, and we also have Edmond O'Brien, who plays this insurance man called Reardon, who is doing all these series of interviews where he meets these different characters and tries to find out the truth. And we also get one of the Swede's friends, who is a lieutenant named Lubinsky, who is also in quite a lot of the flashback sequences and also knows quite a lot about the Swede. But really, most of the story follows exactly what happens leading up to this moment where the Swede got shot. So the Swede, played by Burt Lancaster, we get some interesting scenes where he takes part in this robbery, and he is actually introduced to Ava Gardner's character, Kitty Collins, and their relationship is really interesting, because Ava Gardner as Kitty Collins, she's this classic femme fatale, slightly evil female character who really lures Burt Lancaster into trouble. And there's this excellent scene where Burt Lancaster is with a girlfriend, he's on a date, is at this party, but he can't stop staring at Ava Gardner because he's so attracted to her. And this then leads him into trouble later on in the film. And this kind of storyline, it's fairly familiar and it fits well with these types of 1940s film noirs. We get lots of other films like this in the 40s, such as The Maltese Falcon, for example, and this fits in nicely with that film genre. And I have to say, I enjoyed this film very much, and even though it involves lots of flashback sequences, and perhaps for some people the plot may be quite difficult to follow because it's constantly going backwards and forwards between these different time frames. And in fact, with the flashback sequences, it starts off really in the mid-30s, going going to the current year of 1946, and some people may find that a bit confusing. But I was actually quite pleased with myself with the fact I managed to follow what was going on. But in my opinion, it did get a bit complicated towards the end of the film. Now, I'm not going to spoil it for you and tell you what happens, but it tries to tie everything together, but we get a real mixture of these characters all coming together at the end, and I did start to lose it a little bit, but I was fairly happy with how the film ended, but I wish it could have been slightly different, because I did have to think a little bit about what was happening towards the end of the film. And you might not be surprised to know that in this type of film there is lots of double crossing which goes on, where one character betrays another character and vice versa, and it's that element of the film which I found a bit confusing, and you think you're following it a certain way and then something happens which flips your opinion of it, and you realise that, oh no, this character is plotting a scheme with another character, and this character is actually being evil when we thought they were good. But this is fairly familiar with these sorts of films, so I can forgive it for that, and I think that as a film noir this is excellent, and it really delivers on what you expect. I have to also say the cinematography is really nice. We get some excellent lighting effects with the shadows, and again, being a 1940s film noir, it looks just as good as you would expect. So overall, I think The Killers is an excellent film noir. I probably would think it was better if the ending was as good as the rest of the film, and I actually think that the best scene in the whole film is the scene which is right at the very start, because it sets up the film so well and is a really exciting opening sequence, and I don't think the opening scene could have been done any better. It really was excellent, and then throughout the rest of the film it does really build up the plot nicely and constantly had my attention, although the ending perhaps a bit of a letdown for me. So I'm going to give The Killers a rating of 9 out of 10. I think it's a very good film noir. Burt Lancaster and Ava Gardner are both fantastic, and we do get an excellent supporting cast in this film as well. So there we go. So that is my review of The Killers. So what do you guys think? Have you seen The Killers? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Please let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.